Days away, and they are set for action down at the Idaho State House. Monday, lawmakers are going to return for the State of the State address and then, well, get to work for the 2023 legislative session. A lot of new faces and new places, especially in some of those committee rooms. How it will play out, we'll have to wait and watch, obviously. But we do know there are topics lawmakers are ready to jump on. Two of those, education, property taxes. Chief political reporter Joe Paris shares a preview of those things from a Boise State politics expert, as well as thoughts on the education and property taxes from House leadership.
Here we are, the precipice of the 2023 Idaho legislative session. 2022 was full of elections, and now those elected are ready to take action. And there's a lot of new faces. Boise State politics expert Dr. Stephanie Wett sets the tone. This new legislature has a different dynamic.
Well, a lot of new faces, and so you don't know what the new people are going to be like till you see them in action. So that's a big question, and of course we have many new committee chairs, and the committee chairs hold a lot of power in terms of which bills get into the process and what are considered. So those are a couple things I think that we're looking at right off the bat.
Lawmakers and political experts agree. Education in Idaho will be a major legislative topic.
It is. Of course, the special session allocated $410 million for education, but it did not specify exactly how that should be spent and on what kinds of issues. So that's a topic the legislature will have to pick up. Of course, the legislature does not have to honor that. They can change their mind, change the dollar amount, change the focus. So that's all yet to be seen.
Assistant Minority Leader, Democrat Representative Lauren Necochea says Democrats are following the GOP sentiment mentioned last session of fund students, not systems, closely.
I'm very concerned about all of this talk about school vouchers, which would siphon funds away from public schools to private schools where there's no accountability and no oversight, and we can't as taxpayers make sure that those children are getting what they need to succeed. And I'm even more concerned in this era where our public and charter schools we fund with public dollars aren't getting the funds they need. So there are no extra dollars to take away from them.
Majority Leader, Republican Representative Megan Blanksma says GOP members of the House are focused on education options for Idahoans.
I think what our focus on education is going to be is less on the facilities and current systems and more on workforce development. I think that's where we're finding a shortcoming, and we had done some town halls around the state earlier or at the end of last year, to try to figure out what business is needed for a workforce. And so I would look for some more targeted education investment when it comes to workforce development. I think that is going to be more of a focus this year.
Property tax is another major issue Idahoans have spoken up on. They've called on leaders around Idaho to fix the reality of booming property tax rates.
Democrats have consistently advocated for re-indexing our homeowners exemption so it goes up with home prices. In 2016, when the Republicans capped that homeowners exemption, instead of letting it go up with home prices, every Democrat voted against it because we predicted exactly the scenario that we see today, where homeowners are seeing their property taxes going up year after year after year.
Blanksma says yes, lawmakers want to do what they can to address property tax issues, but the reality is local government needs to make changes.
The state does not levy property tax. The state does not collect property tax, and the state does not spend property tax. And I understand people are hurting based upon their property tax bills, but this is a very serious local problem. Property tax goes to your local entities. We have, I think Representative Harris said it best last year, we have a whole lot of levers with the taxes that we collect on a state level, but we have very few to address property tax. Now I know we're looking at ways to shift money to try to give some property tax relief as best we can, but what people really need to focus on are those local budgets.
So we are expecting a lot of action over the next several days. Of course, tomorrow will be the inauguration over at the State House. We'll see a lot of the new state executives signed into power. Of course, on Monday, the governor's state of the state, and Brian, from there, it's away we go. And there's a lot that we're expecting to get into over the next several months, but Monday officially kicks it off.
What's interesting is that there's a lot of people out there clamoring for the state to get involved in what usually is local control, whether that's education, which is all local control. I mean, funding comes from the state, yes, but it also comes from property taxes. And then the other side of that is property taxes. That's also done at a local level, but there's a lot of call for people at the state level to say, fix it, do something, but it's all local. And so how can they get into that?
And it's difficult too, because to be honest, and not to insult anyone, but there's a lot of people that pay property taxes that might not fully understand exactly how they work, and that's okay. You should look into it, but some people frankly don't. So property taxes, for the most part, at the local level, there's a lot of spending and there's bonds and levies that we talk about that can drive those up. So what lawmakers can do at the state level could be limited. However, there are things like the homeowners exemption, which you heard Representative Necochea talk about, and those are the types of things that Democrats are talking about. What can we do from this level to kind of help the burden? At the same time, though, you'll hear Republican lawmakers like Representative Blanksman, we just heard from her, saying that, look, we can only go so far. You need to talk to your local officials and talk to them about how they're spending at the local level and kind of where your money is going. So it'll be a very interesting conversation. It'll probably be similar to what we've seen over the last few years. But again, there might be new solutions. With so many new members of the legislature, so much new blood.
Touching on that, I was going to say, a lot of new members, but we expected going to last session some volatility. Are we seeing that really quickly, if that's going to be kind of the case this year?
There's a number of lawmakers that we've seen a little bit of a preview on social media on how they might handle some of their business. To be honest, though, we really don't know what a lot of these new lawmakers will do or how the older or the more senior lawmakers will be doing that as well. So we'll find out starting Monday.
Yep. Buckle up, buckaroos. We'll be right back.